Hi everyone, Michael here, Guardians of the UK. I just want to do a video explaining why I believe we need a national lockdown to protect our children. So let's go. Okay, so I was on X the other day and a poster called Active Patriot posted a post saying that he has heard of some intelligence that apparently ISIS fighters are in the country and at some point they're planning on attacking a load of primary schools and carrying out a terrorist attack on lots of schools against our young children. Whilst I'm not convinced that this intelligence is true, I have no doubt in my mind that we have lots of extremists who've infiltrated their way into the country and they are pretty much waiting to carry out an attack, or it's inevitable that a terrorist attack is going to take place at some point. And it wouldn't really be hard for them to do because basically they would do what Axel Rudikabana did, but they would do it in multiple schools to cause as much terror as they can. And our government has essentially made our country completely unsafe. It's actually insane when you think about it. We probably have thousands of extremists in hotels or in our country who have come in illegally, whether it be from Afghanistan, from Iran, from all over the Middle East. And what's ridiculous is these terrorists have probably infiltrated our country. They've been allowed in illegally, and then we've paid for them to be in hotels. They're probably using all the pocket money we're giving them to buy weapons to potentially carry out a terrorist attack. And the evidence is clear. As I say, some of these posts on X and TikToks, you see there's one gentleman at a window doing the throat slash sign saying, you know, we're going to do you in. There was that gentleman in a hotel saying to the English patriots there, we're coming to take over the country and we're going to do you all in. And there was even one person, one asylum seeker holding a banner saying terrorists are in this hotel. Now, I'm not sure if this was just a regular asylum seeker warning the British public or if it was a threat and a boast. But either way, it's undeniable that we probably have thousands of dangerous psychopaths in our country. And they literally are psychopaths who are mentally sick with Islamic extremism. And there's no negotiating with them. There's no reasoning with them. These are psychopaths who are as crazy as Axel Rudikabana. Now, from my point of view, it's inevitable that something is going to happen at some point. And what I think is better for the British public to think 3 steps ahead rather than waiting to react. Because what I think will happen is a mass event will take place and then British people who have already had enough, they're just waiting for something to happen to fight back. Is if something like that did happen, then you'd see tens of thousands of British men just go crazy and all these hotels would end up probably being attacked and probably end up with mosques being attacked. It would descend into a civil war. And the rage would be so bad that even like all the politicians and everybody who's enabled it would all be under attack from the British people. Now, I'm not advocating any of this stuff. I'm just saying that this is what will most likely happen because I'm trying to predict the future. But it's inevitable that people are angry, they're annoyed. The government aren't doing anything about it. They're actually enabling the problem. So when an attack inevitably happens, then naturally the response will be outrage and a response to all those who've caused the problem. So all the Islamic extremists or the Islamic community who've enabled it, to the politicians, to the NGOs, to the hotel owners, all those people will make or will be a target of the people who have been suffering and their children have been murdered. Now, that's what could happen or what will happen if we can't stop an attack from happening or if we don't get to grips with the problem. If we start getting to grips with the problem and people see change happening and then an unfortunate event occurs, people's anger will be restrained by the fact that, well, at least we know somebody's doing something. So let's say that a new government came in next week with Rupert Lowe leading it, and he started deportations and change was happening, and then an attack happened. Nothing that bad would come from it because we'd already realised that a solution is being implemented. But if we have our current government happening, then bad things will happen as a response. And this is why I say, instead of reacting to these problems, we need to preempt them and come up with solutions before bad things happen, or try to push the government's hand before these bad things happen. And that's why I think something like a national lockdown is a good idea. And I'm just putting ideas out there. But what people could say is, we don't feel our children are safe in modern Britain. And obviously, we've had the grooming gangs, we've had all these illegals this week abusing young girls. Every day there's been a report of a young girl abused. And what's nefarious is that you see a lot of these guys a few weeks ago, before the school shut, hanging around schools. Now, there's two reasons they may be doing that. I heard someone say is that, one, obviously they're perverts, but two, they could be hanging around these schools, scoping out the place, preparing for an attack. And I think that parents should absolutely be worried. And even the government know this, because schools are being put into lockdowns, and they're doing lockdown drills because they know that there's a load of dangerous psychopaths out there who could go in and cause mass casualties. So my idea could be something along the lines of, right, September the 1st, just before the children go back to school, we demand action be taken. Otherwise, we are in a lockdown. Or from September the 1st, the country goes into lockdown enforced by the public. See, in COVID, the government forced us into lockdown, but now we are going into lockdown to force the government to deal with the illegal immigration crisis and make our community safe. And until they start urgently taking actions to remove all these illegals and stop the borders from being wide open, then we will not come out of lockdown, and the economy and the government will suffer the consequences. So when people online do all these petitions like, we demand another election, the government couldn't care less about your stupid petitions. They just laugh at it. But if September the 1st, the majority of the nation didn't go to work and they didn't attend football matches and the country came to a grinding halt, they wouldn't know what the hell to do. They would be illegitimate, and they'd have two options. They'd either quit or they'd have to try and sort out the issues. And we would say, we're not coming out of lockdown until our border is closed, until all of these illegals are removed or they're put into accommodation where they're kept away from the public, and that we feel safe as a public and we feel safe to send our children to school. And in the meantime, personally, I believe that parents should not be sending their children to school because, one, they're not safe, two, they're being brainwashed, and three, the education system is a waste of time. They better be self-educated. But obviously most people are working, so they send their kids to be almost like a daycare centre rather than a place for them to learn. But if you can, I would suggest you keep them at home or form a homeschool community to keep them safe. And I think that is a better idea. If we went into lockdown and forced the government's hand before anything bad happened, that's a better way forward than waiting for something to happen and then reacting. So we need to start like chess. We need to be 3 steps ahead of the game rather than 3 steps behind the game. We can see what's going to happen. So how can we stop it happening, and how can we come up with sensible solutions rather than waiting for it to happen? And there's multiple plans that we can implement. As I said, stop sending your kids to school, start homeschool communities. If we en masse stopped paying taxes and then use that money to build our own health service, to build our own police security system, and through that we can build our own mini new system and starve the old system. And once we cause the old system to collapse and the economy dies, and all the benefits stops, and all the pointless jobs that are part of the communist regime, they just employ a load of government workers to keep them as slaves. Once that all collapses, then our country can be rebuilt again. And all these illegals and all these scroungers claiming benefits, they'll all be forced to leave the country. So we just need to stop feeding the old system and start building a new system. In the meantime, before we can reclaim the system for ourselves and rebuild the whole country in the right image. Okay, so that's my idea really, and I think it's high time, as I said, that we start looking forward and being 3 steps ahead of the game and coming up with solutions rather than just complaining and moaning and reacting. We're never going to get anywhere by complaining, moaning, and reacting. We're going to get somewhere by being wise, visualizing what's going to happen, and coming up with preventative measures and positive solutions to our problems. And people need to start following wise leaders rather than all these clout chasers and money chasers who are just making money out of the destruction of our country. And that's what Guardians of the United Kingdom is all about. It's about being wise, being sensible, having solutions, and dealing with our problems in a sensible way. And if you like what I'm talking about, there's going to be loads more coming up. So subscribe to this channel for positive solutions. Like the video if you like it, share it with as many people as you can. Now, I'm coming up with the idea. I know that I have barely no subscribers and no influence really. But what I do realize is that sometimes just putting these ideas out into the ether, they get picked up by bigger accounts. And then all of a sudden it could get heard by large amounts of people. For example, on Twitter, I've seen people with barely any followers come up with a great idea. And then somebody with 5,000 followers will retweet it. And then that will get the attention of somebody with 100,000. Then it may go to 1 million. And then this idea that started from one person with no influence has become mainstream. So that's the reason I put out these ideas. And hopefully some people may see this and realize that this is sensible solutions, and I can get more people involved and grow a following to come up with solutions, not from an egotistical point of view of I want to have a big following. No, I want as many followers as I can because I know that the sort of ideas I have are going to provide positive solutions, rather than people who are doing things for their own ego so they can have 1 million followers on YouTube or whatever, but they don't have any solutions. They're just happy to get clout. Whereas I don't care about the clout, I care about the solutions. Okay, so that's pretty much the point of this video today, to give out some solutions and hopefully get some more people subscribing. So if you're new, subscribe, share it with as many people as you can. Let's get a movement going. I'll get other people involved to become guardians at some point. From September, I'm really going to kick it into overdrive. At the moment, I'm just trying to sort my own life out and get closer to God, do a long fast at some point to recharge my spirit, and then hit it as strong as I can from September. Okay, God bless everybody. I hope everybody is well. Stay strong, stay positive. God bless. Goodbye.